They had come to the conclusion that certain types of people could make life difficult for everyone else. Maya, an engineering manager, and Max, an engineer-physicist, worked at Optical Design Inc, a small high-tech company in a Chicago suburb. The company produced lens systems for optical instruments used in industries and products like microscopes, CD lasers, and video cameras. Maya, nearly 6 feet tall and assertive, was respected by all for her fairness, integrity, and business acumen. Max, on the other hand, was a little less conventional. At 5'8", skinny, with long hair often tied in a ponytail, he wasn't the most masculine man and often became the target of jibes from Mark Kramer, the sales manager. Mark was known for treating people poorly and brown-nosing his boss. He was married, but rumors circulated about his romantic escapades. Mark wasn't just a sexist, but he liked to put down anyone who wasn't as technically skilled as he was. For example, during a company golf outing, Max's poor performance on the course became fodder for Mark's insults. Max's imperfect shots were a constant source of Mark's frustration, and by the end of the day, Mark had managed to ruin everyone's fun. Later, over drinks, the conversation turned to gender issues, a topic that often invited Mark's loud opinions. He dismissed any challenges women faced, claiming they had it easy with preferential treatment and quotas. Maya, exasperated, pointed out that women still made less than men on average. Mark countered with his usual argument about women quitting their jobs to have children. Maya rolled her eyes in response. As the discussion heated up, Max, ever the analytical thinker, suggested it was simply a case of each gender thinking the other had it easier. "It's like relativity," he said. "What you see depends on your frame of reference." Mark quickly jumped in with a retort, typical Max, sitting on the fence. "So, what does that make you, huh?" Fiona, Maya's secretary, decided to challenge them. "Okay, if you think being a woman is so easy, try wearing pantyhose, a bra, a skirt, and high heels to work every day. Let's see how you handle that." Mark laughed it off. "No way in hell." Max decided to put up a little resistance, just for show. "That's a pretty big challenge." "There better be something in it for me, Maya." "I don't do things for nothing, like they say in Chicago politics," Max said, his bluntness coming through. How about this? I'll take you out to dinner at any restaurant you choose for a whole week if you do it." Maya knew exactly how to tempt him. Given the company's casual vibe, where visitors were rare and practical jokes were a regular occurrence, Max figured it might be worth dressing up if it meant some alone time with Maya, who he secretly admired. But he decided to play it cool for now. "I'll think about it," Max said as the break ended and the women returned to their offices. "Yeah, think about it, sissy," Mark mumbled, once he thought the women were out of earshot. Maya immediately called back, "You know, Mark, every guy has a feminine side, even you. The real sissy is the one who hides it behind a fake macho front, and that describes you perfectly." Mark fired back, "No need to get all upset, Maya. I'm not the one who looks like a pansy. To see my feminine side? You'd need a super-powered microscope for that, maybe even an electron microscope." "Hardy har har." His mocking tone grated on everyone. The women exchanged exasperated looks, sighed, and returned to their work. For years, the company lunchroom had been the setting for quick chess matches, often accompanied by small bets. While upper management disapproved, there were always a few $100s riding on the outcomes. Mark considered himself a skilled player, just like he did with golf, often boasting of beating his friends and intimidating the lunchroom crowd. He noticed that Max, the intellectual type, always avoided playing chess. "What's the matter, Max, afraid of losing?" Mark teased. Max simply shrugged, citing being too busy, and walked back to the design lab. Maya and the others observed Mark's behavior with increasing frustration. She was about to confront him when an idea struck her. "Max, can I speak with you for a minute in my office?" "Sure, what's up?" "Is this about Mark?" "He's a pain, but he doesn't bother me since I don't work with him." "Still, he is annoying," Max responded. I cringe every time it happens, Max. Even if it doesn't bother you, it's bad. The VP probably would have fired him by now for harassment if he weren't such a good salesman. But something needs to be done. Mark is killing morale here, and we need to put him in his place. You're going to help with that? Max's eyebrows shot up. How? Are we talking about itching powder or exposing his current affair online? No, Max. I want you to accept his chess challenge, Maya said with a chuckle. Max looked nervous. You want me to? I've got it all figured out. Nothing to worry about. Just trust me. Here's the plan. Mark was thrilled that Max had agreed to the challenge, eager to once again assert his superiority at the expense of someone he considered weaker. He ran into his fellow salesman, Charlie, in the hall outside his office. Got Max to play a match this afternoon. Should be fun and maybe even profitable, if I know my Maxty boy. Charlie gave him a thumbs up and a curious laugh as he walked off. Ha ha ha. Mark mimicked the laugh. Yeah, that about sums it up. If you've got the time, come by and watch me wipe the floor with him. See you later, Charlie. After work, Mark and Max set up at the chessboard in the lunchroom, drawing a sizable crowd of coworkers. Mark thought, this is it. The whole company's here to watch me take down this sissy. Maya, passing by, spoke up, why not make it interesting? How about $1 a game? Perfect timing, Mark thought. Even Maya's helping me out. Sounds good to me. What about you, Theodore? Max nodded quietly and moved a pawn 2 squares forward. Max soon tipped over his king in defeat, losing the first game in 30 moves. Not a complete blowout, but still a victory for Mark. $1, please, Mark said smugly, holding out his hand. Max, looking defeated, pulled a bill from his wallet and handed it over. Mark, growing more confident, suggested, this $1 stuff is getting boring. Let's double it, $2 next game, for the next, and so on until one of us quits. Scared? Max hesitated but eventually agreed. Mark reset the board and the special clock, which had 2 timers, one for each player. The second and third games went similarly, with Mark winning in 38 and 27 moves. He kept his excitement in check, not wanting to make Max nervous. Things were going smoothly, Mark was on a roll. But the fourth game? It was different. Mark first thought it was a fluke, that he'd simply been distracted by the growing crowd. But soon, he ran out of money and had to start writing IOUs. Still, his overconfidence kept him going. He just needed to win one game to get back on track, and then he'd be even again. Easy. A couple more losses made him wonder if Max was somehow cheating, maybe receiving help from someone or even using a computer. But there were no earphones, and Max had kept his eyes locked on the board the whole time. When Mark realized the truth, it was already far too late. To make a long story short, 3 hours and 14 games later, Mark's face was beet red, and his bank account was drained by $16,369. The crowd, still in full force, laughed hysterically as Max systematically destroyed Mark's positions, game after game. It felt like Max was a giant python slowly crushing a helpless rabbit. The outcome was always the same, a lopsided, relentless defeat, as if Mark were being bombed into oblivion like a small country in a military blitzkrieg. As the match dragged on, Mark's moves became increasingly erratic. By this point, even the most observant onlookers might have thought Mark had a death wish. Finally, Max leaned in and whispered to Mark, "Maybe I shouldn't be playing you, Mark. I could pick up some bad chess habits." Mark, already flustered, became absolutely livid. "But I guess the reward makes it worth it, right, Mark? A few more games, and I should be able to put a down payment on that Porsche I've been eyeing, and maybe it's time to upgrade to a 1.5 GHz workstation with a nice 20-inch flat LCD monitor for my den. After all, it's the new millennium, right? I can keep up with the latest tech and help support the economy at the same time." Don't you think that's a good idea, Mark? At long last, Mark collapsed in defeat, hiding his face in his trembling hands as he broke down sobbing. I'm completely broke, he wailed. To make matters worse, Mark realized that no one in the company had warned him about the trap he'd walked into. The humiliation was overwhelming. He'd been made a fool, outsmarted by one of the oldest tricks in the book. The crowd cheered Max as he stood and gave a modest bow. Maya pushed through the group of onlookers and sat next to Mark. My, what do we have here? A twist on the classic man bites dog story? Poor Mark. You never bothered to find out why Max stayed away from the games, did you? You walked right into our little trap, Mark. It didn't occur to you that the others might have avoided him because, let's say, he's a bit too skilled for our casual games? Or maybe Max didn't feel challenged by our little noontime matches? Max can hold his own with the Pentium 450 running Chess Genius version 5. It's nearly Grandmaster level, just a notch below Kasparov. So, big guy, you waltzed right into an industrial-strength circular saw and got shredded to pieces. We all had a great time watching you get demolished, but the fun isn't over. Oh no, it's just beginning. Mark winced at the ominous words. Then came the bombshell. Mark, I think Max might forgive your debt if you agree to do something for all of us. Max's expression immediately darkened, and he shot Maya a glare. Over the past few months, we've debated who might be the real sissy around here, and I think we're about to find out, Maya continued. What? Mark asked, confused. Fiona stepped forward and placed a paper shopping bag in Mark's lap. Mark looked inside and recoiled in horror: frilly lingerie, a petticoat, panties, a bra, a skirt, and, worst of all, 5-inch heels. Arg! No, not that! Mark screamed. Oh yes, Mark, Maya said with a smirk. It's either this or you pay Max every penny of your $16,369 debt. If necessary, we'll go with you to the bank and watch you withdraw it. Think about it. You've got 5 minutes before we start dressing you up as our sweet little Josephine. And don't worry, we made sure everything is your size. The employees of OD Incorporated had never witnessed anything like it. The spectacle was so unusual and so absurd that some of the onlookers had trouble breathing from laughter, and a few nearly had seizures from the sheer ridiculousness. It was like one of those emergency situations that keep CEOs awake at night, worrying about insurance premiums. As for poor Josephine, the once feared Mark Kramer, high-powered sales manager, his reputation was forever ruined. He spent the first few moments trying to play it cool, laughing along with the crowd in a desperate attempt to save face. But the more he tried to pretend it didn't bother him, the more the crowd laughed at him. Realizing it was pointless, he lowered his head, tears streaming down his face as the relentless mocking continued. Spitballs and donuts flew at him, and chants of "Sissy! Sissy! Sissy!" rang out, cutting through the chaos like bricks, louder and louder, until Mark's shame was all-encompassing. At this point, in the interest of maintaining decorum, we'll leave the events to your imagination. Fade to black. The next day, Max and Maya sat in her office, reflecting on the previous day's events. Max, feeling an unusual sense of trust, found himself opening up to her. His usual shyness seemed to vanish. Remember when Mark asked if I could see both sides? I know he was trying to make fun of me. What he implied was that I had both genders inside me. As strange as it is to admit, he wasn't entirely wrong. And when Josephine walked out of the washroom dressed in women's clothes, stumbling along in those heels, on the surface, I laughed along with everyone else, but deep down, I felt a bit of envy. Maya paused, considering his words carefully before responding. Max, I've known for a long time that you're something special. You're not afraid to be yourself, and I admire that. Max fought back a rush of emotion, his voice thickening with sincerity. I think you're special too, for understanding, he said, his eyes welling up. Maya looked at him, waiting for more. And for being one seriously attractive woman, I might add, Max continued with a playful whisper, mimicking an imaginary Groucho Marx cigar. Maya chuckled and, for the first time, blushed. Their eyes locked for a few seconds before Maya spoke softly. Now, Max, don't take this the wrong way. I'd never do anything to hurt you. Max raised an eyebrow, unsure where she was going. But I really love that special side of you, and I'd like to see you dressed as a woman, at my place, not here, she said, emphasizing the word really. Max's face lit up in a smile so wide it seemed to stretch across the room. Maya, relieved, couldn't help but smile back. I'd love that. I would really love to dress up for you, Max replied, joy flooding him, washing away any hesitation. And so, it turned out, Max and Maya found they enjoyed each other's company more than they had anticipated.